Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when
all right, as always, Dolphins number one, baby!
So fins up to all you guys. Thank you for doing
I just want everybody to remember, we may not always agree on everything Miami Dolphins, but there's one thing we do agree on, is we are all Dolphin fans. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Fins Talk. I'm your host, Steve Malloy, and joining me tonight, back from his mini vacation, the one and only Rob Mosley, a.k.a. Dolphin Thirsty. Welcome back, Rob.
Well, thank you very much for the great introduction. A lot more to talk about now that I'm back, and the Miami Dolphins have been practicing, and now today they practice against the Falcons. Tomorrow they practice against the Falcons, so there's a lot to talk about. But thank you for the good welcome for Dolphins Thirsty, guys. Dolphin Thirsty's been a little down for dolphinthirsty.com and my YouTube channel, but by tomorrow morning we'll be all up and getting updated, so it's going to be fun. So thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining us tonight, everyone that's in the chat. We appreciate you. Please hit that like button when you come in. Share, subscribe. We're almost at 1,000. So we're looking forward to getting that 1,000 mark. So if you would please subscribe, and again, hit that like button and share with your family, your friends, and your neighbors. And remember, we may not always agree everything Miami Dolphins, but there's one thing we can agree on. We are all Dolphins.
That we are. Well said, as always, Steve. That's your go-to, but it's very true. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Rob, you're back. We do have a lot to talk about, as you said. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to some football, baby. We got some football coming Friday night. Miami Dolphins will be playing, like you said, the Atlanta Falcons. They had their first joint scrimmage today, and we're gonna recap that a little bit. But first thing we're going to do is we are going to show a video of something Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel said before we get into the show tonight. I'm going to play this video every Tuesday night for the rest of the season if the Miami Dolphins do not get this O-line straight. Hit it, Rob.
Tight end and offensive line could just be justified as more positions of need. Was this guy significantly higher on your board than any of the tight ends or offensive linemen available?
You know, when we do our board, we go through it, and there were a lot of good players that were picked too, ahead of those. So we look at every position, we go through it. I think you guys are probably more worried than we are, in terms of, at the position depth at those spots you talked about. But at the end of the day, we added a good football player. We're happy. And like we said, the draft, it doesn't end with the draft.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's from the horse's mouth, Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel. They ain't worried about the O-line. They ain't worried about the depth. Not as much as the fans are and the beat reporters. Rob, what's your take on that?
It's funny. I've seen that interview several times, but after watching it now a couple times today, I catch his little body demeanor, like kind of body language, and you can tell he's kind of just talking the talk. He even has that nervous laugh after he's, maybe some of the fans are a little more nervous, and you can tell he is a little concerned. But where I do agree with him, we did pick good. Looked like we picked a good player in that first pick of the draft in Cam Smith, but where I disagree with him is that there should be more of a concern for the offensive line. And I could say that is not only Chris Grier, Jeff Ireland, all the people it's been like 20 years since the Dolphins had a good, solid offensive line. I know I may have gone way a little many 2 years, but it's been way too many years since we've had a good offensive line, and I'm tired of it. because I don't care how good our receivers are, how good our running backs are. Even if Tua has a great season, we're only as good as our guys in the trenches up front, both offensively and defensively. But yes, I'm more concerned about our offensive line than I am our defensive line. But yes, we definitely got to do some upgrades still along the line. But I'm not going to panic yet. The only reason I think we're all panicking is because of the history of the Dolphins not being able to put a good line together. But it's early. They can maybe get cohesive. They're still learning from their new offensive line coach, like their 1 million offensive line coach they've had in the past few years. So they're still learning from him. So I'm gonna, let it play out, let the preseason play out. But if by time the Chargers play and they come and our offensive line stinks and Tua has no time to throw and there's no running lanes, then there's going to be open season to be fair criticism on the offensive line. But yes, like you, I'm very concerned at this moment of the reports coming in that the Falcons are dominating us in the trenches, that we're winning the speed battle, but they're dominating the trenches, which, as we know, when it gets late in the season, the trenches is going to be where you win or lose and make that playoff push.
No, absolutely. You're right on. You're right on. And it's the same culprits. It's Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson. And let's not forget, Connor Williams didn't make the mini camps or the OTAs this year. He was holding out. And believe it or not, he has been struggling big time in this scrimmage, especially today. So I'm a little concerned. Not as much as I am concerned of Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson. Number one, Liam Eichenberg does not belong in the NFL football. He belongs in the XFL or something like that, semi-pro football. The dude is getting pancaked, all the time on the field. He's missing assignments. Austin Jackson has been getting beat around the end several times. Yes, they make some good plays, especially on one-on-ones. But when it comes to the actual scrimmage, they're getting beat. And they're missing assignments, and they don't know where they're supposed to be. That's a problem. And Connor Williams, like I said, I'm not so much concerned about him. I am concerned, but I'm not as much. And the reason I'm saying that is because, remember, he was a number 5th rated center in the NFL last year. So right. I'm not too much.
More proven history of you're not hitting a panic button for the guys that have stepped up and played well in the past. But for Absolutely. 2 guys, I agree with you. The 2 guys that had a bad history in the past, yes, I'm with the Steve Malloys of the world. I'm very concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there for a positive note, we have Kendall Lamb. Now I believe he's an 8-year veteran. He has been playing well. He's been holding his ground. He's been okay. He's been playing pretty well. So Isaiah Wynn, Feeney, Obiho or Buho, whatever his name is.
Cole.
Yeah, there you go. They're playing on the same level as Eichenberg and AJ. They're not any better. In fact, Omar Kelly was asked that today on Twitter about those guys. He said, nobody's standing out. They're all playing about the same. They're just below average at best. Robert Hunt is even struggling, not so much as the rest, but I'm not worried about Robert Hunt. I'm not worried about Armstead other than his injury history. But AJ and the depth and Liam Eichenberg, I'm very, very concerned. And it's a good thing that our quarterback, the only saving grace to this is if our quarterback can get the ball off quickly this year, like he had last year, then we might be okay. But I would still be very concerned. And here's why I'm really concerned too. And this is something I want to talk to about. It has to go the O-line, but also goes hand in hand with Tua and the O-line. Tua has been struggling back there. He had an average day today. He's been average in camp this year. In fact, he hasn't been as good as he was last year. He's been average. He hasn't been bad. He hasn't been terrible. He's just been average. He's been making some good plays, but that's expected with Tyreek Hill. I'm not concerned about him. I know had been on to a slow start, and he hasn't been making as much noise as he did last year. But I'm not worried about him getting open and things of that nature. He was burned. Our receivers was burning the Atlanta Falcons today, their defensive backs. They were burning them. I mean, they were making them look embarrassed. But the problem is you got to get the ball to those open receivers, and a lot of times Tua is missing. In fact, he had an interception in the red zone. The guy could have ran it back 85 yards for a touchdown. It was a terrible throw. He's made some bad throws, and I'm very concerned. And I'm also very concerned of him holding on to the ball, something that we've been talking about a lot about Tua Tagovailoa. And he's still doing the same old habit, holding on to the ball. And in fact, that's what's gotten him hurt, more so than the O-line. And he can't do that in this year coming up. And one more thing. Now, I'm only critiquing his weaknesses, okay? I'm not. He's played average. He's played okay. He's the best quarterback out there, no doubt about it. But he is extending plays in practice. And he was in a press conference, and he even said it in the press conference. The Dolphins team wants him to extend plays in practice to keep the play going. If he gets a sack, the guys touch him, he'll keep the play going, and he'll throw a nice pass or whatever. They want them to continue to do that. That's not a good habit to get into, because we all know what muscle memory is. And that's going to happen. The same thing is going to happen when he plays in the regular season games. We don't want that. We don't want him to extend plays, not with his injury history. I'm sorry. He's not that guy. So stop it. Anyway, that's enough on Tua. Go ahead, Rob. I talked a little bit too much there. What's your take? What have you been hearing on Tua and all three of the quarterbacks? I've been hearing some good things about Mike White. Go ahead.
Yes, now I've been hearing earlier in camp there was a lot of good things about Skylar Thompson, but he's kind of fallen off, and you're hearing more about Mike White. And I only talked about those two because there's no use talking about Tua, because we all know he's QB1 unless he gets hurt.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
No really. So right, so there's no much to critique there, but the backup quarterback on this team, due to our history of our QB1 getting hurt, is going to be an important position, because he's probably likely going to have to step up at some point in the season. So, just the current nature of all teams in the NFL, sometimes the backups have to get in there. I mean, if it's just for a few plays. So you want a guy that's ready to go. And it's looking like Mike White's experience might play off, because I think earlier in camp, Skylar Thompson was taking the experience of knowing the offense better. So he was a little ahead of Mike White, it seemed. But now that, Mike White seemed to be setting up and learning the playbook better, it seems like he's maybe merging a hit. But of course, we won't really know until week 1 of the season, when the real depth chart is your eyes are going to see who they really think's the starter. Because today the Dolphins came out, but they still had Jalen Ramsey on there. They still had Nick Needham on there. So it's not, you can't take the depth chart too serious at this point. So, so once that all gets official, because they still had Eichenberg over Wynn, and they had Jackson and all those guys. So, we'll see. It's going to be the real test. We're going to start seeing in the preseason. We're going to see who's doing better, who's getting eat up. And by the third preseason game, we know when they play that's when you're going to know. Well, now they only play the 3, but, they maybe by the second preseason game, they would act like it used to be for the third preseason game. When they used to have 4, they always made that the most important. It was like a test run for at least a quarter or two to see how the starters do. So by those later preseason games, like this week's not going to matter, because McDaniel's already come out and said that some starters are not going to play, some will play, and this is going to be about how it goes. So I'm not really worried about today's depth chart. I'm not going to say, oh my God, Austin Jackson's and Eichenberg are starters. We'll see when it comes. By the time they line up against the Chargers, September 10th, then that's going to be the real, okay, this guy's the starter. And, we're going to have to either love it, hate it, or pray, whatever you want to do. You're just going to have to live with it until someone really steps up. And that's why I'm with you on the offensive line. Normally, I try to be the positive guy, but it's hard to be positive about the offensive line when it's been, Joe Rose, who's Mr. Positive, played for the Dolphins, a homer, does a home game. Does a road, he does a, color analysis on the Dolphins radio every game of the season. Even he comes out and he admits the offensive line, is a issue for the past decade or so. So yes, I'm with you. There's no positive way to spin this offensive line. So until they fix it, I'm worried along with my buddy Steve.
No, I agree, Rob. I agree 100%. And I don't want anybody or everybody in the chat or take this the wrong way. I'm being critique. I'm being hard on the Dolphins now. It is practice, and practice means a lot, believe it or not. These are when you start developing them habits, getting that cohesion going, getting the fundamentals down, things of that nature. So it is a big thing. But I am going to be tough on my Miami Dolphins until they prove me wrong. And if they play bad, I'm going to tell you they play bad. If they play good, I'm going to tell you they play good. If Tua throws a touchdown, I'm going to be the first one to be jumping up saying, yeah, all right, Tua, go. If he throws an interception, I'm going to be the first one to go, you suck. That's just me. But I just want everybody to know, I however the team plays is the way that I'm going to call it. They play bad, I'm going to call it. But anyway, to go back to what you were talking about as far as the depth chart goes and everything. No, I agree with you. You're absolutely right. And it was even mentioned, and I don't remember if it was Butch Berry that was talking about it or it was Mike McDaniel. I was reading a piece where people were asking the question, and they asked them about the depth chart, and I don't remember who it was that was talking because I was reading it. I don't know if it was, like I said, I don't know if it was Butch Berry or Mike McDaniel. But
Right.
they said, no, this is not the depth chart. It's moving pieces. Next week it could look different. It just depends on how the person's play, in practice and of course in the preseason game up and coming, coming on the 11th of August.
Right.
So we'll see. But so I'm not going to get all bent out of shape over the depth chart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But on a positive note, we'll talk a little bit about on the offense. Chosen Anderson has been making some plays out there. He's really showing his colors now. His veteran presence has been showing his hands. He's got good hands. He come down with some tough balls. He stole a ball from one of the defensive backs on Atlanta today. Just ripped it out of his hands, took it for a touchdown. He's made some circus catches out there. He's got some great hands. And if he's a couple yards in front of you, he's gone. He just has that speed as well. Another one that's making noise out there is Braxton Berrios. He's been pulling down some balls, and he's showing where his route running is just tremendous. He's got just great route running ability after the catch. So he's gonna be really good in this, and I think he's gonna be a good fit in this offense that we have. So he's really been good. Oh, I wanted to make mention. I was going to make mention of this earlier since we were talking about Tua, but I know we've been talking about Tua, what his rankings are, and what we think he's ranked in the NFL as a quarterback is, and all this. Well, the NFL just put out a list, and they ranked Tua Tagovailoa in the top 10 quarterbacks, and then all the rest of the quarterbacks as well in the league. But Tua came out 12, just like I've been saying. I think he's ranked 12. And this was picked by the players. So that's 3,200 players in this league or so. Now, I'm not saying 100% voted, but in the voting by his peers, the players, he was ranked 12. So I was right on that, and I'm sticking with it. I think that's about right for him right now until he proves differently. But anyway, moving on. The positives, like I said, is Barrios, and not surprising to me because I thought he would be the sleeper, and I said he was a good route runner, and we've talked about it, and he is. And same with Chosen. I knew Chosen. He had been quiet in past practices, past couple weeks or so, but he's come on the last this scrimmage and in the last practice. He's really showing, like I said, showing his colors, and he can make a name for himself and fit in this scheme on the offense. What have you heard, Rob, on the wide receiver group? And then we'll get to the tight ends. You can go ahead with the tight ends too. Follow up with the tight ends. Go ahead.
No, like you said, I've heard good things about our speedy players that we're definitely dominating on the speed game against the Falcons. And like I said earlier, the Falcons are dominating us in the trenches. So, we will see on that front. But yeah, I mean, there's not really, what are you going to say about our receivers? It's definitely our strongest position on the team. So there's not too much to talk about. Let's just hope they all keep on at that level and that the offensive line struggles or any quarterback, doesn't affect their game. But yeah, there's not too much to say. And the tight end, really, I haven't heard too much because admittedly, I've been gone for a week and it was just more family time. So I wasn't sitting with my nose in social media trying to find out every little Dolphin nugget that came out.
Well, I've been keeping you updated.
And you have, but not so much on the tight end, who's doing well, who's not doing well. But just the group we have, I just don't think it's any overwhelming guy that's going to be like, some big numbers. But can we have good, solid blockers that help in that, the pass protection and run blocking? Maybe so, and that may help the offensive line out if we get someone that can do that. But as far as any specific names, I don't hear what tight ends standing out above the rest.
Right. Well, from what I've heard recently, Elijah Higgins, the tight end we drafted, he has been making some good plays in blocking. He's been very well, solid blocker. They feel he's moving along pretty good with his blocking ability. He's made a couple catches as well, but more so in his inline blocking, he's been very well in that position. Other tight ends, not making much noise. Again, and you said it, mostly we're going to be using these guys for blocking for the most part. I don't see them throwing more than 2 or 3 times to the tight ends in games. I could be wrong. Hey, I was wrong on Skylar Thompson, right? Mike White is coming on strong, looking good. So, hey, I hope I'm wrong. I want this team to make a Super Bowl, baby. But anyway, thank you, Christopher Jones. Yes, I appreciate you making those comments. Yes, I try to be as honest as I can. I just tell you how I see it, wrong or right. I'm not trying to be wrong or right. I hope I'm right, in some things, and I hope I'm wrong in other things. But I just call it like I see it. So I appreciate that. And I see Kenna's in there. Thank you, Kenna, for joining. Appreciate you, brother. Yes, Mike White
in here too.
Yeah, so, I saw Cap for life. Yep, Ender. Yep, Dolphins #1, baby. Old Linder. Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Appreciate you. Also, Rob, I wanted to talk a little bit about those are the positives on the offense. The running game has been up. A-Chain made a good run today, good 6 or 7 yard TD in the red zone. He put his shoulders down, and I didn't see this, but I heard he knocked somebody down to get it down that 1 yard line to get in. So he showed his toughness there. So it's good to see. I was a little scared of him not coming back into practice, because he was hurt there. I had a minor injury, of course, or he wouldn't have been playing. But but he made a play. I can't wait to see him in preseason. I'm really excited to see A-Chain. But our running backs have not really been. I mean, they've been inconsistent. Our running backs have been inconsistent, but I'm also going to say our offense has been really inconsistent. It hasn't been, on point a lot as opposed to last year at this time. But we'll see. We got like I said, we got the exhibit or the preseason game coming up this Friday, so we'll see what's going on. Let's talk about the defense. The defense has been really playing great. The Fangio scheme, you can see it come alive in these practices. They were dominating the offense, especially offensive line. They were just creaming them. Christian Wilkins was looking like an Aaron Donald, in the Hall of Fame defensive tackle. Although today, Zeiler and Wilkins were rather quiet. So they were playing against the Atlanta Falcons O-line. They were rather quiet. So take it for what it's worth. Is our O-line that bad? Or is our defense that good? That's the question, and we'll find out. Enough, right? Like you say, Rob, we'll see. But Christian, Yeah, but Christian Wilkins has been playing really well. He's been showing all kinds of leadership ability. His leaders. He's been showing his leadership skills in practices, talking crap to the players. Omar Kelly, I saw an interview with Omar Kelly the other day, and he was saying, if you heard what Omar Kelly says to these players, it's like X-rated. So I can't say it, but even Christian Wilkins said himself he has a twisted sense of humor. But anyway, I like the enthusiasm that he brings to this defense and everything. So he's been playing well. Zayler's been playing well. Jalen Phillips has been okay. He's been playing above average. He's been doing well.
Yeah, I heard very good things about Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, he's been playing very well. Linebacker David Long has been been playing good in spots.
No, I know. Fangio pointed out that he needs to be more consistent, that he makes flashy plays, but that he needs to be more consistent. It's not all about flashy plays. It's about what you do every play and, stay consistent and help the team. And that's what he wants. Fangio won't hold back like a lot of coaches do. He would tell you what he thinks. He's not afraid to talk to the media and say what his views are. You're okay there, Steve? So
yeah, I was just reading one of the comments here.
All right, yeah, I can flash it up if you want me to read.
Yeah, Kenna's comment, the last comment he made there. He says, "Could it be that we are not as good as we thought?" Wow, Kenna, that's some.
Yeah, that's a $5 question or whatever.
That's a $1 million question, brother.
The $1 million question, whatever it is.
Will.
But yeah, we'll see. And real quick on something, Christopher. The one thing that some people tweeted out, Omar Kelly and others were saying, because I know he says Fangio defense is going to make many offenses look bad, not just ours. But according to Omar Kelly, who I guess was out there today, and he said that that's not so much true, that our defense was looking great against our own offensive line. But today they didn't do much to dominate at all in the trenches, that Wilkins was kind of quiet and all of that. So that's a little concerning. But, again, we're talking about the very first day against another team for the first time all off season. So, we'll see. But, yeah, that concerns me if they weren't dominating. I really thought our front line would dominate. But he said it was kind of quiet for Wilkins and Sealer. But, again, I'm just going on third-party reports because I wasn't out there to see with my own eyes who's doing what or what not. So, but I know you reported that to me too. So, Steve,
yeah. So, but they weren't playing bad. I mean, they weren't playing like they were playing against our offense for sure. Right. But they were playing good. They made some plays out there. Here's the thing about the Fangio defense, and well, two things. First thing is there's a lot of organic rushing. I already said that Wilkins is not a sack master. Right. He will put pressure on the quarterback. Okay. He will put pressure on the quarterback, and that is good in a Fangio defense. But in a Fangio defense, if teams and Atlanta showed that out there today, dinking and dunking, they did a lot of dinking and dunking on our defense, and they were moving the ball. But they don't give up the big play. They didn't give up a lot of big plays. I know they gave up one big play, if I recall today. It was like an 85-yard touchdown. And, of course, lo and behold, it had to be Igbo. But anyway, they did give one big play up. But for the most part, Fangio's defense will not give up big plays. And if you can put pressure on the quarterback, you don't necessarily have to sack the quarterback.
Oh, you put pressure,
any quarterback.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that because we got so much talent on TJ Bray Miller. And welcome to the show, TJ Bray Miller. If you haven't done so already, tackle that subscribe and like button for us. But he, like I said, I'm not sure. Is he capable of getting 2,000? 100% sure. But when you got Waddle on one side and then, you got other guys, I think our third option might be better this year. So I think and we may try to run the ball a little more. So I'm afraid that, not afraid, but I'm not sure if he would get the 2,000 because I think the ball may be spread around a bit more. Yeah, I know. I do. The time the offense only takes advantage of just defense. So I understand we are early, but it's this time the offense normally takes advantage I don't know. I've always heard sometimes that defensive has a better start. When it's the. Is there something else you want to read? Sorry, you wanted this one?
Yeah, that's fine. It says Fangio wants down linemen getting straight pressure on their own. No hybrid blitzes. This floods the secondary with confusion. This is why Tua has been holding the ball. True. That's a very true statement, and that's exactly what's been happening to Tua. He's been holding on to the ball. He's been confused. He's been being forced to make bad decisions, and he has. And he's made some good ones, but he's been forced to make a lot of bad decisions out there. Now, you can look at it this way. That could be a good thing for Tua, or it could be a bad thing. But we will see when he plays against other defenses. Now, in defenses where they play zone, not very good in that type of defense, like a Fangio defense. He plays better when it's man-to-man. Okay? Or am I wrong on that? I might be wrong. It might be the other way around if I'm not mistaken. Might be the other way around. But anyway.
Well, where he is, it doesn't really, I don't think it ever matters if it's zone or man on man.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it when the receivers get thrown off their route a little bit and the timing's not there is where he struggles. Because that's what the 49ers did it a little bit later in the game, the first play of the game. The Dolphins got the big touchdown, but then they started taking away some of those passes. And then last year against the Chargers, they definitely were being physical with our receivers and throwing them off their routes. And then that's where Tua struggles a little bit. If that, those guys, because he's very much a rhythm quarterback, which is it's not a bad thing, but that's what he is. He's a rhythm.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, he's just a rhythm quarterback. So if his rhythm gets thrown off and those receivers gets bumped, then he's a little bit off. So that's more or less my take on that whole situation.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're spot on. And going back to that question by Christopher Jones about the Fangio defense wanting linemen to put pressure and all that, that he was, like I said, he was definitely right on that. And I had something to say about that. I know what it was about the exotic or hybrid blitzes and things of that nature. Actually, it's a good point that you make, because actually Fangio, now I don't know if this is what he was talking about last year, about he had some new wrinkles he wanted to throw into the defenses and he was going to try them out. But in practice, he has been trying out some things that we've never seen his defense do before, and that is some blitzes. He's thrown in some blitzes in practices, and not with a good result. A lot of the times when he has done that, he does it like once or twice during practices, his defense gets burned every time, either for a touchdown or for a long gainer. So I would say, Vic, please just stick with your defense and don't throw in those wrinkles. We don't need that. We saw enough of that last year with the zero blitz from Boyer. But I don't know. I hope that's not the case, but that he's going to incorporate those. But we'll see again. We're running out of time here a little bit, Rob. I didn't want to go too long tonight. I know you're coming back, and we're just now getting into this.
Good, man. We're going to go at it again tomorrow night on my network, Dolphins Thursday. So we're going to have
absolutely.
Fun. So, Christopher, if you want to see more of your buddy Steve, come to our My Network tomorrow night, Dolphins Thursday, and he'll be there again, spitting the truth. And, that's all good. But no, Steve, I just wanted to touch on that. Like I said, just remember, though, it's early, because I know when we did well against the Eagles last year in preseason, everyone's saying, oh, my God, the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl, and the Dolphins were a one-round exit out of the playoffs. So, we can't put too much emphasis on the early preseason, because you're still fine-tuning stuff. Where you really look for is individual performances, and that's why the offensive line is concerning, because overall as a unit, you got a few people in there that you're really concerned about. So it's tough. So that's where I would agree with you that, they are. And if we've had a history of having great offensive line, you can say, okay, they're just a little rusty. They're going to get with it by the time the September 10th kickoff. Oh my God, I can't get it out. September 10th kickoff goes, then, if we're still with those same starters and we're not performing well, it's going to be the panic button from day one, because it's not something that we almost any other position, even if the receivers have a bad day in game one, I'm going to say, okay, they just had a bad game, chalk it up to, okay, they have a bad game. But if the offensive line has a bad game, I'm going to be a little more panicked, because it's a history of having bad games. I mean, I can go back many, I can go back decades naming different general managers, and we've struggled to put a good offensive line together. And it stinks, because yes, we had to pay Armstead a big bag of money because we don't know how to draft tackles, and it stinks. When you draft well, you don't have to overpay for free agents who come in, and you get the best out of them out of their rookie contract. And then if they play to a level that you can't afford to keep them, then they move on or whatever, and you try to flip them later down the road for multiple picks or whatever. But unfortunately for the Dolphins, we just don't have a history. Like, we get Tunsil, and he was good. He fell into our laps. And then, yes, we did flip him for multiple first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have to see how those all pan out, before we brag about that being the steal of a trade. It was a good trade at the time, but, we got to start making all good use of all those picks, keep it going.
Can you put up Scotty's last comment up there?
Yeah,
Scotty, no, I haven't made the practices in person. I've been there's some other podcasters that are putting on some good shows. They're showing video of some of the practices and doing play-by-play and things of that nature. That's where I'm getting my information from. So I'm able to see some plays, live. And then, of course, the highlights. And I'm also taking some information from, I'll just tell you, Omar Kelly, Travis Wingfield, some of the other beat writers as well. So that's where I'm getting my information from. I like Omar Kelly. And the reason why I like Omar Kelly, because he's like me. He's gonna be blunt, and he's gonna tell you like he sees it, whether you like it or not. And that's why I like
him.
And
I did attend the first two Dolphins practice, and then I headed out of town. But the two that were open to the public, the Sunday and the Monday, the first times they were open to the public, I went there. But I was just solo. It wasn't against the Falcons or anything like that. But yeah, they all had their good moments and bad moments. Then 1 minute you're saying, "Oh my God, Tua's like going to be on fire," then the next minute he would make a mistake. And then you did see our offensive line; it would have been sacks in real games. But they, like you said, they let Tua go and continue to play anyway, which I understand in practice why they do that, because they just don't want the mentality of like, oh, you're done if someone touches you, So I understand that, you can make, and I can see what they're trying to instill in them, because we kind of did the same thing in my old job. You train to, like, don't give up just because something goes bad right away, So I understand that, but like you said, you don't want him getting the part of holding on the ball too long ingrained in his head, because I know a couple of times, like Phillips would have blown him up a couple of times in the practices.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That he would have blown him up, but he just ran by him instead of, and it would have been a sack, because, Phillips does this to let him know, okay, I'm not hitting him, but I could have if I wanted to, So it's been some good stuff. So yeah, Scotty, I was out there for the first two, but I have not been to the ones against the Falcons or the past few, just because I would have gone to the one at the stadium, but I was out of town, so kind of hard to go. I already had the tickets. Flipped them over to someone else though, at least, so they could walk in there and stuff. But yeah, I was out of town, so traveling around the Carolinas and stuff. So I heard reports though. I already got canceled a little early. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, so
it got canceled for an hour the last
yeah.
practice before the joint practice, and then they resumed play after the rain and thunderstorms and stuff. But Scotty, in answer to your question, have I attended any practices? Well, I answered the first one you asked, but I'm going to follow it up with I will be attending the Houston practice, since I am here in Houston, Texas. The joint practices. I will be there on August 17th for that joint practice, and I am going to try, or I'm planning, and I've talked to Rob about this as well. He will have a live coverage on his channel, Dolphins Chatter, and on Real Talk, Fins Talk Sports Network. We're going to be doing a live broadcast of the Houston Miami Dolphins joint practices on August 17th. It's in the works. And if If you don't know who TD Finns Talk is, I'm sure you all do if you've seen Twitter. It's been hot lately with him. I will be joining him over there in at the joint practices in Houston. So that it should be fun. It should be fun. Rob, this is it for tonight, man. We're going to close up shop. Guys, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Christopher Jones, Scotty, always like to see you. Kenna, glad to see you again. Appreciate you. Cat for Life was in here, and I know I'm probably missing some folks. Appreciate you all joining. Like I said, we cannot do this show without you all.
Does Bobby have a show running after us tonight?
I am not sure. I'm not sure.
Normally I know, but if Bobby, if you have a show tonight, stay on this network.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But again, thanks guys for joining us. Please hit that like button as you go out if you forgot. And again, if you have friends, family members that are Dolphin fans, please have them, subscribe and join if you like the content. We're going to continue to do this throughout the year, up and coming, as we did last year. We're just going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the games. And as I said, Rob and I, we're going to talk the good and what we see bad. And if it's bad, we're going to tell you it's bad. If it's good, we're going to tell you it's good. So,
and ugly, the good, bad, and the ugly. Like
good, bad, and the ugly. There you go, brother.
I'm a little more positive tonight because I'm coming back from vacation, so all the vibes are good in the world, So it's all fun. So yeah, guys, Absolutely. Check me out on Dolphins Thirsty here on YouTube and DolphinThirsty.com. It hasn't been updated the past few days because I've been traveling around with the family. But Steve, it's always a pleasure to talk Miami Dolphins. Just give me a minute before we do anything because I have to go find our closeout video. So
no problem.
Any final thoughts there, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the game this Friday, man. I'm just excited about football, and I'm excited about this team. I'm expecting, big things from this team. I really am. And so that's my final thoughts.
No, I'm with you, man. My final thoughts are the same, man. They just got to kick butt. They have to do well. No more excuses. To me, this is the year of the no excuse. There's no excuse for the Dolphins as a team. No excuse for the coaching staff. No excuses for our QB1. This is a year where everyone has to step up to the plate, take their swings. They may strike out. They may hit a home run. They may hit a double where we're like, oh, that's enough. To me, at least a double would be one playoff win or something. Triple would be 2 playoff wins and get to the Super Bowl. Home run would be getting to the Super Bowl and winning it finally. So this is the 50th year anniversary of our last Super Bowl victory, where I was basically 3 years old. I don't remember it. I do remember the losses. I don't want that even, but I would take that over what we've had the past couple decades of mediocre football. So let's take that winning spirit and just get it all wrapped up to be ready come September 10th against the Chargers and just kick Justin Herbert's ass and do well. That's how I look at it because he has, he got us last year. Let's get him this year. So now with that, I got my video. So if you want to get ready for your Dolphins #1, I'm ready to roll now.
Absolutely. Remember, Dolphins #1, baby.
Dolphins #1.